And now let's say hello to our friends over on Amazon Live as well. So, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you're watching across the country. Right on cue, my little dog Dallas wants to come say hello. Come on. Oh, I think he's just going to hang out with me for a while right here. So, today we are going to talk about, here he is, Dallas. Today, we are going to talk about the 7 habits of highly effective people in the form of the personal workbook. If you are new to joining me, I'm here every day at noon with a book review. I decided at the beginning of the year that this is going to be my personal journey to read a motivational book every day and to outline it here for you so that it is part of my personal accountability to be here. So again, thank you if you're joining me on Facebook or YouTube or Amazon Live. I am thrilled that you're here. Now, what I want to do is just get a little techie, and I'm going to set a little setting here, make sure I can start our chat, and we'll dive right in. All right, if you are new to this format, I welcome your input. I would love to be able to chat with you, have suggestions for what books you may enjoy reading, what books you might want me to review in this space, because I'm glad to do that for you. All right, so the books that you'll see in the stream, if you're joining on Amazon Live, are books that I have previously done reviews on, or summaries, I guess would be a better word for in this space. So since January 1st, I have reviewed amazing books like Atomic Habits, Think Like a Monk, one of my favorites from Jen Sincero, You Are a Badass, Judgment Detox by Gabby Bernstein, some great books by Adam Grant and Seth Godin, some of my favorites. And so today, Motivation Monday, I'm going to take a little time to do some of the work, right? Instead of just do the summary, let's get to, as my good friend from 25 years ago, Rowena Tauber, she's no longer with us. She was a shaman, a fantastic lady from Kenya. And she said to me, Leah, you read a lot of books, but you don't always do the work. So for Rowena, we're going to do the work. And that is, for me, partly this showing up and giving you a summary so that it locks into my brain. Hopefully it is helpful to you as well. And today, because I'm sharing with you about a workbook, I want to prompt you and to give myself some accountability to actually do the work. So one of my all-time favorite books, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey, is brilliant beyond words. Simple to read, not easy to implement, but so effective. Clearly one of the precursors to, more modern day books like Atomic Habits and Think Like a Monk, but based on principle, based on really day to day doing work by guiding values. And I think that's what a lot of current material speaks to as well. So with this, the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People in the Personal Workbook, you have prompts. So it almost walks you through the original 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and a lot of the charts and the graphs and the information, like your paradigms and your paradigm shifts. It walks you through an overview of the habits of effectiveness, and so let's begin there. So he says, my all-time favorite author, Stephen Covey, so missed. So he says 7 habits are habits of effectiveness. The effectiveness is based on timeless principles that are in harmony with natural law. Effective people are guided by their own missions, and here you'll go through a mission statement, your own personal mission statement, and manage their lives according to principles. Ineffective people follow other people's agendas and manage their lives around pressing matters. So this is, again, about finding your own mission statement, your own guiding path, if you will, day by day. So, in habit one, be proactive. Proactive people do more than take initiative. They recognize they are responsible for their own choices and have the freedom to choose based on principles and values rather than on moods or conditions. Proactive people are agents of change. Habit two is begin with the end in mind. That age old principle of, I think back to like Zig Ziglar, you've got to know the target that you're aiming for. You've got to begin with the end in mind. He talks about individuals, families, teams, and organizations shape their own future by creating a mental vision of their purpose on any project, small, personal, or interpersonal. They identify and commit themselves to principles, relationships, and purposes that matter most to them. So that is beginning with the end in mind. And that, of course, part of the reason why I'm here in this space. Okay, Dallas, you're going to have to take a break. My sweet little Havanese companion likes to hang out with us. I'm just going to take a minute and say hello. If you are joining us on Facebook, I want to say welcome. I'm super glad that you are here. And welcome you in. I'm going to open up that chat as well. So here we go. And all right, I will put the link for you for this book into the comment section so that you can have access to it there. Hey, Ken Nyberg, nice to see you. Thanks for being here with me. Also, want to say hi to Tim Barrett. Thank you for being here with me as well. All right, so so fun to have you guys here. All right, so now let's go again and welcome you in if you are joining me on Amazon Live, checking in with you here. And I'm just going to highlight for you the Kindle that is available as well. So if you are somebody that likes to listen to the audiobooks, you can do that through the Kindle, or you can read on the Kindle itself. Pretty much, I think everything that I'm making available for you through the Amazon books are available in the Audible version and the Kindle version as well. I'll try to remember to put those into the carousel for you. So welcome. I'm really thrilled that you're here. Every day I show up as close to noon as I can. Today I was a little bit late, and we talk about personal motivation, personal inspiration, sometimes business related, sometimes psychology related, but always useful and always helpful. So habit three, he talks about put first things first. And that was a whole book that I reviewed for you probably 2 or 3 weeks ago. And put first things first is his quadrants of recognizing what is important, what is not important, what is urgent, what is not urgent, and really focusing in on what is important and not urgent, which would be values and goal clarifying and true recreation, sort of getting some peaceful time, maybe even meditation or mindfulness in that space, and living from that quadrant, from that space. Habit four, talking about win-win, an age-old kind of, if you grew up in the 80s like I did, idea of thinking win-win so that everybody can participate, everybody can come out well, and whatever is the dealing. Maybe it's a business dealing, it could be an interaction in business, but again, thinking about everybody having the best outcome. Habit five, I think, is something that is really coming to the forefront now in our current times more than ever, and that is seek first to understand and then be understood. Wouldn't things in our world be so much different if we were really able to do that, to take the time to listen, to actively listen, to engage, to mirror, and do a lot more of that and a lot less of just kind of speaking our own minds, but really taking the time to listen first and then kind of have that conversation afterwards. I really think that that is the key to so much right now. And then habit six, synergize. Synergistic people seek the third alternative with others, not my way, not your way, but a third way that is better than either of us would have come up individually. Synergy is the fruit of respecting, valuing, and even celebrating one another's differences. It's about solving problems, seizing opportunities, working out differences. It's the kind of cooperation that is 1 plus 1 equals 3. I love that because synergy is something that I'm investigating in a lot of the communities that I participate in personally with mindset. With we're working now on these groups getting together that are encouraging one another and doing a lot of very timed lessons as far as giving our feedback and not getting too involved, psychologically, but just giving a power mindset to a small group of people in small meetings. And I'm really looking forward to participating in some of that and doing it actively. Again, not just writing out the goals, not just reading the book, but actually participating in the action. And habit 7, sharpen the saw. Effective people constantly renew themselves in 4 basic areas of life: physical, social, emotional, mental, and spiritual. I've got a lot of work to do on this. I feel like my physical could get a lot more busy with my exercise habits and discipline there. So, again, another goal that I'm going to stack on top of this noon initiative that I'm doing every single day. Because I find that stacking those goals one on top of the other really helps me with the discipline. Because now that I have my own accountability, knowing that I'm going to show up here at noon and do these book reviews with you, I can stack into that, either ahead of it or behind it, a next relatable goal that is a biggie for me. And that is some physical goals with exercise. All right. In the book, then, he goes on to give you some nice assessments. So you can rate it. You can do, the number chart. You can kind of check out and see where you are, see where you want to be, kind of get a snapshot. And to give you an idea, these are actually pretty easy when it comes to just answering. I think the only hard part is the honesty that you want to give it, but it's your emotional bank account. I show kindness and consideration towards others. I keep my promises and honor my commitments. I do not speak negatively of others when they are not present. So then you rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 6, 1 being the lowest, 6 being the highest, and kind of get your own marker, if you will, for where you are, how you're doing. And there are 7 different areas in that, the 7 habits. Each one of them has its own little a little box here for evaluation. Then he gets on to habits. And again, like I said, I feel like this 7 habits is sort of a precursor to what we see with more modern books like Atomic Habits. It's more of a foundational book to a lot of the modern studies. And this one is talking about the habit is the intersection of knowledge, skill, and desire. Knowledge is the what to do and the why. Skill is the how to do it. And desire is the motivation, the want to do. And then he has you go through what is it, a good habit that you're doing now and a bad habit that you're doing right now, and walk through the knowledge, the skill, the desire, and then what do you want to change? And then he goes through the maturity continuum. And this is what I've always been fascinated with in the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. This one is about going from dependence to independence, right? So sort of going from childhood to adulthood, but then to interdependence, because he says the most effective is interdependence, where now you have a community and you're building a system, if you will, of reliability. And I think that's really cool, right? It's a really insightful next paradigm. Interdependence is the paradigm of we. We can do it. We can combine our talents and abilities to create something greater together. Despite independence being the avowed goal of many people and social movements, interdependence is far more effective and an advanced concept. So interdependence, I think that's really sort of the point of some of the masterminds that I'm getting involved with. All right, part 2, private victory, talking again about being proactive and interdependence. So, developing proactivity. He says, your life doesn't just happen. Being proactive is about taking responsibility for your life. And I love how so many of these books that I've been reading since January 1st are woven together. Yesterday, even stretching back to Failing Forward by John C. Maxwell, which is a book written a number of years ago. The whole premise of that is that the more you take responsibility, the more you have control and choices and can create, if you will, your own destiny. I'm paraphrasing there. But it goes hand in hand with exactly what Stephen Covey is saying here. Your life doesn't just happen. Whether you know it or not, it's carefully designed by you or carelessly designed by you. After all, it's your choice. You choose happiness, you choose sadness. You choose decisiveness, you choose ambivalence, you choose success, you choose failure. You choose courage, you choose fear. Just remember that every moment, every situation provides a new choice. And in doing so, it gives you a perfect opportunity to do things differently and more productively and with more positive results. Habit 1, be proactive is about taking responsibility for your life. Now, how do you do that? Now he goes into developing proactivity. Between stimulus and response, you have the freedom to choose. How many times does that ring in our ears? From Rumi to Wayne Dyer to Deepak Chopra talking about it in the quantum field. Between stimulus and response, you have the freedom to choose. I think Viktor Frankl talks about this moment of choice, that you have the power. This is your greatest power. One of the most important things you choose is what you say. Your language is a good indicator of how you see yourself. A proactive person uses proactive language. I can, I will, I prefer, etc. And so then again, he goes through prompts in this journal of, okay, so what does that mean to you? How can you implement this? What could you do to put this into action? So for me, I put it into my physical health. I need more vitality, more energy, more clear mindedness, time to breathe, to do yoga, to do some serious self care. So, what is the stimulus? And so then it goes into kind of analysis there. Lack of discipline, perhaps lack of allowing myself to indulge in self care, like making the time to get a massage or time for stretching or silence, etc. And then he says, okay, what are the other choices that might exist between the stimulus and the response? So I can list it and execute it. I could do some things that I know are baby steps, like there's a plant swap where you can plant, that you can bring different types of plants from the garden and swap out one with the other. That would be sort of for me, a baby step of moving in that direction. I can make appointments and schedule them, and and then I can just make each moment a new decision. So kind of brainstorming around what to do with those. So then he gives you checklists. How large is your circle? He talks about your circle of concern, your circle of influence, which is, again, kind of overlapping your personal with interpersonal and business related options. And then taking initiative. What can you do? Is there something you've always wanted to do that you felt you didn't have the time, the talent, or the ability? For me, I put down jogging. I have to begin to exercise and continue to do it consistently, doing it. All right, so then he goes on to habit 2, begin with the end in mind. And this is a whole goal setting workshop. So if you've never done goal setting prompts, if you've never taken the time to really go through with checking in, he talks you through in these form of these prompts, checking your vision. Is it time for a personal vision checkup? Take a minute, think about each question, write your thoughts below. And then what interests you the most right now? What fills your soul? And what can you do well? What are your strengths, your traits? Developing a personal mission statement. He talks about that. What is important to you and why? Listing a top 10. And then writing a rough draft. I like that. I like the idea of writing a rough draft. It reminds me of some of Tim Ferriss's work, or even Julia Cameron. We visited one of her journals, the original, the Artist Way journal. And she says, just write it out. It doesn't matter what it is. 3 pages, full handwritten pages every morning of just writing it out. And I liken that to what he's saying here, which is write your first terrible mission statement, your first rough draft. So it kind of gives us permission to just get it out there without getting stuck in the perfectionism of it. And then he goes on to complete your mission statement, and you can fine tune it in there. So that's about your personal mission statement. And then I love, there are additional readings with him. I think we reviewed actually the 7 steps to highly effective families and having a family mission statement. So there's lots of iterations in this that you can do. Personal mission statement examples. And then he goes on, my life is an adventure to savor and enjoy. I have great purpose and destiny. In my life, I will love and serve God, my family, my neighbors, have joy in serving, build and strengthen young people, seek truth. These are sort of prompts to see what might align for you. Develop wisdom, teach, set an example, share, have health and strength, be faithful, walk in peace, pray, listen, be patient, cultivate peace and harmony, honor my mother, remember who I am, where I came from, and my purpose. There's so many great ideas in here. Now, he says roles and goals. Now that you have a rough draft of your personal mission statement in progress, it's important to consider the roles and goals in your life and how they relate to your mission statement. So now he makes it even more salient, right? Let's bring it to life. Now that we have the concept, let's build the prototype, if you will, and going into it there. So then he's like, okay, here's the role that you can take on in your life to do it. Like, say, it could be volunteer. And then what is the example? Spend 2 hours at a children's uh, volunteer center, and then put a date on it. He has a date here in the prompt for us. And then some goals, long-term goals. What is 1, 2, 3? Your 1, 2, 3 top long-term goals. What, why? Try to articulate it. How are you going to go about it? Tell yourself how. How. He's got a whole list of like, how are you going to do it? Kind of breaking it down piece by piece. Then putting a timeline on it. What are the steps that are going to take you there, which I think is really fascinating. And then goal planning. Okay, what is the goal? What is the deadline? What is the mission behind it? What is the importance of that goal? And that gives you that sort of that Simon Sinek concept, right? Of the why. What's your why? If your why is big enough, it can take you there. And again, it harkens back to some of Tony Robbins' original concepts, right? I'm saving some of Tony Robbins' work for special days for me as I kind of continue on this journey every day at noon, showing up to do these book reviews, because a lot of his work is what set me on this journey back in, oh my gosh, probably 1990 is when I first kind of stuck my toe in this area of personal development. And it's so exciting to see so much overlap. And I think that's really what spoke to me about Tony Robbins' work very early on, of what is your purpose? What drives you? What is your passion? That whole concept of personal power, and now interwoven here in the personal workbook with 7 habits of highly effective people. Then he goes on to habit 3, interdependence. So putting first things first. And here is probably my all-time favorite chart. And that is the time management matrix. He has a list in the upper left-hand quadrant of urgent, and then on the right-hand side, not urgent. And then across, he has important and not important. So you end up with 4 quadrants, and one is important and urgent, one is not important, one is not urgent and important, one is urgent and not important, and the final is not urgent and not important, which you should try to eliminate entirely if you can. Those are things like junk mail and trivia and things that are time wasters. And then he presses us to spend our time, in not urgent but important activities. Now, what would that be? That is prevention, that's relationship building, recognizing new opportunities, planning, recreation, or he calls it recreation, where you're sort of recreating yourself and what you want. I love that idea. And and that's, again, where he urges us to spend most of our time. And then there's lots of prompts on how to get you there, little questions of why are you not doing it, kind of giving you awareness of how you can. How are you really spending your time? How are you living in relationship to that mission statement? And then some really nice soul searching work happens in this workbook. What is and isn't working in your life? Wow, that's a big one, right? Do you feel, don't feel as if if you are out of the ordinary, if you struggle with this. Many people do. Many times you're thinking about your first things and how you can help move along that path. Keeping your first things in mind, respond to the following questions. Do you really want to pursue and follow your purpose? If so, why? If not, why not? What do you want to change about your life? A lot of these deeply, deeply perspective pondering thoughts that you can have in this journal. And you can keep it as highline as you want. You could go even more simplistic. What interests you the most? What do you feel passionate about? What's important to you? What do you believe in? What is your potential? What do you stand for? So you can choose the layer, if you will, that you want to go down to as far as the depth. And then talking more about roles and refining them. By the way, just want to say thank you as you are jumping on here on Amazon Live. I can see our community building and joining, and I'm so grateful to you for spending a little time here. We're talking about 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, the Personal Workbook by Stephen Covey, one of my all-time favorite authors. An amazing gift that he gave to us in so much of his work. And this one I really like because it's about doing it. It's not just about reading it and sort of ingesting it. It's about then putting it on paper, implementing it, doing those small day-to-day habits and doing those big evaluations. And like I said earlier, I think it's a precursor to some of the more recent amazing works that we have, like Atomic Habits, James Clear, a book I read earlier in the year. So again, every day at noon, I'm showing up here with an accountability space and hopefully to offer some inspiration to you if you don't have time to go through some of these great books. And it's a great way to give back and a way to be present and a way to be accountable also to myself. And I love the community that we have too, as we're able to interact as well on Facebook. Thank you for being here. And on YouTube, thank you if you're joining me on YouTube as well as on Amazon Live. And if you're on Amazon Live, I do have the book highlighted right now in the carousel. So if you like what we're talking about, what we're discussing here, let me encourage you to put it into your cart and check out and buy it and own it and then read it and then do the work that are in these pages because it really is transformational. I've done a lot of it, truth be told. I've got a lot more to do. There's some definitely blank pages here, but there are definitely some pages that I've delved into, done a little work. So don't feel like you're behind. There's always more work to be done, right, in the world of personal development. He talks about trust on page 79, and this is a biggie for me because part of the reason why I'm showing up every day is to develop my muscle for personal trust, to back in and say, I can do something that's not easy, read a book every day, and I can show up and have my accountability by showing up and being public about it. And that builds trust within me to know that I can do that and I make that and hold that sacred. And so I love the chapter here about trust. Did you just go through the last exercise thinking there's no one you can trust to do those things? You may think it's faster and easier if you do it yourself, but does it allow others to grow and develop? So this is about trust building within a community or a family or a small unit. It takes time and patience to develop trust in others. If you're going to or striving toward stewardship delegation rather than gopher delegation, then everyone involved wins. So he's talking about building team building, if you will. Invest the time in teaching, training, exercising patience now, and the end result will be more time saved in the long run. And so, again, going back to building on your own team, building your own system for what works. Part 3, he talks about public victory. And that again, leading to interdependence. Again, just to review, going from dependence, which is, just our early stages of life, to independence, which is basically growing up, right? And then the next evolution, he calls it interdependence, where you create a community and an accountability and a framework and team building. In my little world, I'm doing mastermind groups that we're building right now for accountability, different people from different walks of life and different business genres, that we each share encouragement and insight from our unique perspectives, but in a very, very timely manner. It's very regimented. And I'm really, really excited about getting involved in that. Again, it's about doing the work. And that's what the workbook is about versus just the book, which I still think is a great read, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. But the workbook then makes it more personal and gets you involved in doing it and writing. Okay, now let's take inventory, he says. Take a look back for a moment and survey the terrain that you've traveled so far. Remember, the 7 habits are based on a process, an inside out approach. The first 3 habits concentrate on the inside, sort of growing up in thinking about yourself. That habits 1, 2, and 3 increase your self respect and self discipline, and then it leads you to a private victory of independence. Instead of feeling victimized and immobile, focusing on weaknesses of other people kind of moves you into your own independence. And then he said, after experiencing your private victory, habits 4, 5, and 6 will lead you to public victory of interdependence, where you're capable of building rich, enduring, highly productive relationships with other people. It's now time to concentrate on the out of Inside Out. Incidentally, one of my favorite movies, Inside Out. He talks about your emotional bank account, keeping promises versus breaking promises, clear expectations versus unclear expectations, loyalty to the absence, like not talking about people when they're not in the room, showing disloyalty or duplicity, apologizing versus having pride or conceit or arrogance. And 2 keys to making deposits. Key number 1, deposits need to be frequent and consistent, talking about your emotional bank account. And that could be with a personal relationship or even with business relationships. Key number 2, deposits do not incur until the recipient considers it a deposit. So, like, the money's not in the bank, even if you put it there, until the bank says it is in there. Interesting concept. You simply don't know what constitutes a deposit until you understand the other person. So, for some, receiving feedback, comments, and things they've done is a deposit. For others, it's a withdrawal. If your motives for making a deposit are not sincere, others will feel manipulated. So, again, it encourages us to take a real hard look at relationships. Going on to habit 4, thinking win-win. I think a lot of us have grown up with that concept, right? It's about how can we all be in this together and create a solution that works for everyone. I spent a lot of years working in that mindset, and I think a lot of us has. If you haven't, then certainly there is a lot of prompts that you can do in that chapter. Going on, habit 5, seek first to understand, then to be understood. Probably the biggest of them all, right? Taking the time to listen, taking the time to listen actively and then reflect back, maybe even mirror, and then really sitting in that and kind of like getting it right before you're ready to just say the next thing, which for me has been a big personal journey, because growing up in the world of home shopping, I started in 1999. 1996 was when I first started in TV, 1993 as a producer. But I have to say, growing up in that environment, it's all about talking. It's not about listening. And learning to listen, I think, is one of the biggest skills, one of the most gratifying skills, and one of the most generous skills and habits that can be attained, period, or can be practiced. I just really think that's a biggie. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. So, uh, quotes along the way here. Although the tongue weighs very little, few people are able to hold it. From Unknown. Communication is the most important skill in life. Consider this. You spent years learning how to read and write and years learning how to speak. But what about listening? What training have you had that enables you to listen so you really deeply understand another human being from that individual's frame of reference? That's the key, right? Not just hearing the words, but having the empathy to step into that and what that really means. Seek first to understand or diagnose before you prescribe. I think even diagnose sounds a bit condescending. I would offer, empathy and again, stepping into it. I think this is the language of the times. Of course, Stephen Covey writing the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. This workbook was in 2003. So again, certainly as important and valuable today as it was then. But I think there's even more evolution that has been added to the conversation and dialogue about this. So he goes on, autobiographical responses. How do I listen? And then empathetic listening. You have the right to remain silent. He talks about attentive listening, selective listening, pretend listening, ignoring even, listening with your eyes and your ears and your heart, and then a listening exercise. The next time you have an opportunity to observe people communicating, cover your ears for a few minutes and just watch their body language. Listen to their hand gestures, their stance, their facial expressions. And then he gives you prompts to actually kind of write that out. Listening skills, enhancing empathetic listening. I'm just going to mark that because I'm going to come back to that and do that exercise. That's what I love about a workbook. You can be like, yeah, I need to do that. 10 steps to becoming an empathetic listener. Practice saying, take your time, I'm listening, and really mean it. Set aside your own agenda. Be available and receptive emotionally as well as through body language. Try to appreciate the other person's point of view. Listen without being in a hurry to take over. Excuse me while I have my little tissue. Try to imagine yourself in the other person's place. Feel what the speaker feels. Help draw out that thought and feeling by asking questions. Have the speaker elaborate further. I remember this through some counseling. Is there more? Let me make sure I understand, and then restate what is being told to you, and then be sensitive to the speaker's feelings. So I love this really detailed information there, right? About what it really means to be an empathetic listener, evaluating your communication prompts there. And then habit 6, he moves on to synergize. What does that mean? Interdependence, going from dependence to independence to interdependence. Synergize is the habit of creative cooperation. It's the essence of principle-centered leadership. Synergy is celebrating differences, teamwork, open-mindedness, and finding new ways and better ways together. It doesn't just happen, though. It's a process. And through that process, you can create new alternatives, options that didn't exist before. Synergy is the idea that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. 1 plus 1 equals 3 or more. And then there is a whole concept and area on synergy and how to create it, being responsive to new ideas and developing trust and discovering and sharing new common interests and humor and not stereotyping because nobody is something all of the time. And then sharpen the saw. He goes back to recreation, really taking time to uh, re-energize and sharpen your skill set. It's about balanced renewal in all four dimensions of human need: physical, spiritual, mental, and social emotional. As you renew yourself in each of these four areas, you create growth and change in your life. You increase your capacity to produce and handle challenges around you. When you don't renew yourself, you limit or even reverse the growth that you've experienced and your capacity to handle it. So there you have it. Ready, set, go. And then it gives you kind of, again, a way to plan out your physical renewal, your self-care, which has become quite a buzzword, I think, this year in 2021, your social, emotional renewal of how you're going to fill your cup in that way. So there you have it. It's a workbook that is, all in all, I think we're looking here, yeah, about 167 pages of tools and tips and guidelines and fill in the blanks and prompts and ways that you can get yourself moving in the right direction. Entirely based step by step on his amazing work, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. In this one, it is your journey and your prompt book and your a workbook for self growth. And I highly recommend it. So thank you for being here. Thank you on Facebook Live. Thank you if you've been joining me on YouTube Live. And a special thank you if you've joined me on Amazon Live. I have the highlight in your carousel. And Nikki, hi Nikki, she says, good habits to follow. Absolutely, totally agree. And so glad that you joined me today, Nikki. And I can see so many of you joining me on Amazon Live, and I'm so grateful that you've taken the time to do this. I'm here every day at noon with a book review, and I don't usually put it out ahead of time because, quite honestly, I'm doing this as a personal journey and not as a have to, but as an accountability. And so I'm choosing a book. I've ordered a few ahead of time, but I'm choosing a book that really I'm drawn to in the day, in the moment. And so that I can feel like it speaks to me and hopefully then will speak to you as well. So I'll be back tomorrow, noon Eastern time, with another book review. In the meantime, a lot of the books that I have reviewed over the last, since January 1st, month and a half or so, are in the carousel, sort of in reverse order from yesterday to the day before, and on so down the line. And those are available as well on my Amazon page. So you're welcome to spend some time there, and I'll put links on Facebook as well as on YouTube. So thank you for joining me. Have a happy Monday, Motivation Monday. Good start here with 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and I'll see you tomorrow.